I told you that your boss might be doing more harm to your health than even your doctor can fix? That's not an exaggeration. Research shows that your manager could be the biggest threat to your mental health. Today, we're diving into four major ways that toxic bosses impact your life at work and beyond. I'll also be sharing some personal stories. So stick around to the end of this conversation. You do not want to miss anything. Before we break down the impact, let's define what we mean by toxic boss. A toxic boss is someone whose behavior consistently harms the people around them. It might be micromanaging, it could include public put down, or it might be those little subtle things, microaggressions, constant criticisms, emotional coldness, or a lack of communication, regardless of the style. One thing is clear: toxic bosses create unhealthy environments that take a toll on people mentally, emotionally, and physically. Toxic bosses not only impact how you feel at work, but who you are outside of it. Let's look at how those impacts show up in four major ways. The first major impact of a toxic boss: they crush your motivation. You might start feeling trapped, apathetic, or ineffective. Like no matter what you do, it's not enough. That spark that you once had is gone. Why? Because toxic bosses rarely offer meaningful feedback or growth opportunities. Instead of building you up, they chip away at your confidence little by little. You may begin to procrastinate. You may stop caring about your job. You may lose a desire to push yourself because it feels pointless. It's like nothing works. And you know, the worst part about it is some people say they stop feeling like themselves entirely. I have absolutely felt that shift, going from feeling ambitious and engaged to burnt out and numb. When I first got promoted into management in 2004, I was a part of an inaugural team that was in the process of launching a first of its kind state program, something that had not been done in the United States. And it was amazing. I was so excited to see all the good work that we would be doing. But eventually, I went from loving Mondays to hating Sundays. I didn't know that these were warning signs for me. Bad bosses and toxic work environments impact your physical health in powerful ways. You might notice headaches, back pain, digestive issues, or just a constant sense of fatigue, like you're tired all the time, no matter what vitamins you're taking. Some people may get sick more often. When you're stressed, your immune system is weakened. There were times when I would get chest pains to the point where on several occasions my children had to call the ambulance. This is not a joke. When stress is chronic and driven by toxic leadership, your body pays a price. So if your body is feeling off, like you feel some kind of way and you can't figure out why, it might not be the food. It might not be the kids or the weather. It could be your manager. Toxic bosses impact your relationships. At work, they create division. They play favorites, they amplify competition, and make it hard to trust your coworkers. This can breed resentment, isolation, and even conflict among team members. Toxic bosses like to be center stage. They want everybody looking at them. So when they are being toxic towards you, or you are their target this week, because you know the target can change, then what happens is your coworkers see it. Some of them, they don't know what to do, but they know they don't want to be the next target. So they don't jump in to defend you. They may look away, look down, act like they're taking notes. And then sometimes they're just trying to survive. They are just trying to make it through the day and not get on the toxic boss's radar. You also have folks jockeying to be in close proximity to the toxic boss because they don't want to be the next target of the week. You have the people who are on the inside of her circle or his circle, and then you have those people who are on the outside of her circle. When you are the person who is targeted, you on the outside of the circle looking in. Toxic bosses also impact relationships outside of the office because the tension follows you home. You may start snapping at your partner. You may zone out with friends. You may not have the emotional energy or bandwidth to show up for the people you care about. Studies show that work stress, especially from toxic leaders, spills into your personal life and can even impact your parenting. There were times where I was simply emotionally unavailable for my babies. My social meters were spent. I had nothing left to give. And a lot of times I was on autopilot with my babies. I'd pick them up from school, I'd feed them, read them a story, but my emotions were turned off. So, yes, your relationships may take a hit if you're dealing with a toxic boss. One of the things that I would encourage you to do if you're struggling with relationships and you don't know why, take a closer look at what's happening at work. My family went through my toxic experience with me every day, anytime they talk to me. My mother, my brothers, my grandmother, my aunt, everyone, because anytime I spoke with folks off the job, I talked about this toxic job and I talked about my toxic bosses. And I'm sure it must have been horrible for them. So understand that toxic bosses can have a huge impact on your relationships. The last one is really subtle, but it's very powerful. Toxic bosses can impact how you see yourself. You may start questioning your abilities, doubting your value, or feeling like you're difficult when really you're just reacting to the constant stress. It's not just about what they say, it's about how the toxic boss's behavior slowly shifts your internal narrative. You used to be confident. Now you second guess every move, walking on eggshells. That shift in your identity can be the most damaging of all because it stays with you even after the job ends, unless you actively rebuild. And that's why we need to recognize these patterns early. So let's go over the 4 hidden impacts of toxic bosses. Number 1, toxic bosses impact your energy and motivation. 2, toxic bosses impact your physical health. 3, toxic bosses impact your relationships. And again, this could be relationships at work and relationships at home. 4, toxic bosses can impact your sense of identity. So, what can you do? The good news is, even though you cannot change another person like your toxic boss, you can take back your power. Now, it may take a minute, and I would encourage you not to rush it, but you can start journaling and asking yourself, has your behavior changed since working here? Or working for this person, or working on this team, or working on this project? Whatever the working it here is, has your behavior changed? 2, are the bad days starting to define your week? 3, have you stopped recognizing yourself? In other words, are you a totally different person? Is your attitude different? Have you lost control of your boundaries because you're shell shocked, you're traumatized, and you may not even know that you're shell shocked or traumatized? What you do know is that you do not feel like yourself and you feel like you do not have control over how you feel. Know that you still have control over your attitude, even though it is difficult. You still have control over your boundaries and you still have control over your relationships. Albeit you may have to work extremely hard. You still can have control over those things, or you can get back control if you feel like you've lost control. I encourage you to prioritize self care, seek support. I was able to utilize my employer's employee assistance program, EAP. In fact, that's how I found my current therapist. Strengthen your network. That means getting people who are Team Colette or Team Jane. And if you don't know who's on your team, make a team. Now, I wouldn't have that team at work. That don't mean you don't like them. I just would not have them on my get back on track team. And if the environment refuses to change, you have permission to leave. Do what you need to do so you can move on. Make your plan, pray. I didn't say this earlier, but my network included serious prayer warriors. I'm a Christian, so I believe in God and I believe He helps and can change anything. Talk to your pastor, your rabbi, whoever you talk to, and have those people who you are able to call on when you need help, because you will need to talk to folks. Okay. Seriously. The other thing I want to say is go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. I neglected my health because I was just exhausted. But once I was able to go to the doctor and my doctor was able to say, hey, you are dealing with stress and your stress is causing this, I learned a lot of things. So go to the doctors, ladies. Get your checkups. I eventually had to leave my toxic job that had the toxic boss. I fought it because I didn't want anybody running me out of my good government job with good government benefits. But one of the things I had to recognize is sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is leave. If you've ever worked for a toxic boss, or you think you might be working for a toxic boss now, know that you're not alone. In the next video, we'll walk through the key signs and behaviors to help you clearly identify a toxic boss. This is information that I wish I had. Remember, your work should lift you up, not wear you down. Let's make this a standard. See you in the next video.